My dad was killed over 25 years ago in a side underride crash in North Carolina. He was on a rural road in North Carolina, and it was a two-lane road, and it was at night, and the driver of the truck had brought the truck home with him and was going to back it into a field to park it, and he was in a curve in the roadway, and my dad came through the curve, and he was in a jackknife position with the trailer blocking both lanes of highway, and he hit the side of it, went all the way under it, and came out 41 feet on the other side. And he lived about 20 minutes, but then died of massive head injuries. And the trailer had no lights that were operating. And at that time, they were not required to have the retroreflective tape on the trailers. And so my dad really had no opportunity to even try to stop to prevent, hitting it. And it was totally, a needless crash. The lights should have been operating. And of course, since that time, my family, we worked for, with the Truck Safety Coalition crash for about 10 years, and now the federal government does require that truck trailers have retroreflective tape on them, which helps with the issue of conspicuity and visibility of the trailer. The next step in that process would be to get the government to require side and stronger rear underride guards to prevent passenger cars from going underneath the trailers. Most all modernized countries have them, but the U.S. And it unfortunately takes our government a very long time to act on an issue, and they seem more beholden to the industry than they do protecting, the citizens of our country that travel our highways. And it's just an ongoing battle. We go from one issue to the other. If it's not size and weight, it's hours of service. If it's not hours of service, it's the lack of regulation. It's a never-ending battle in trying to make our highways safer, but at the same time, there's no better way to honor the memory of your loved one than to work on these issues and to make their death not have been in vain. I never wanted Daddy to have died in vain, and I feel like this is the one thing I can do so that I don't feel like his death was in vain, was to do what I can to make it better. Probably at this moment today, the biggest issue, the most current issue that we're looking at is the size and weight issue, and that's because that's something that's going to be coming before Congress. And a larger, heavier truck is a more dangerous truck. It's more prone to crashes. It increases fatalities. It increases injuries. And so that is the biggest issue right now that we're looking at, is size and weight. When is big enough? If you go back 25 years, there's been nothing but one increase right after another in size and weight, and enough is enough. And when are enough deaths enough to make them stop? We are not anti-trucking, we are pro-safe trucking. Trucking is an aspect of our economy, it's an aspect of our life. We're not trying to do away with trucking, but no one should expect anything less than for our government and the industry to do everything they can to prevent crashes and fatalities. If it were the airline industry, they have zero tolerance for crashes. They don't say, well, we're only killing 5,000 people, a year, and they accept that as part of doing business. They don't accept that, so why should we accept anything less with regards to truck safety? We are pro-safe trucking. And it shouldn't be one or the other. There should be a balance. And fortunately for those of us who have been unfortunate enough to experience the loss of someone or to have been involved themselves in a truck crash, fortunately the Truck Safety Coalition is a group with which we can all come together and bring our voices together and be united as one. And we are the one obstacle that prevents the industry from getting everything they want with regard to making more money. Unfortunately, the industry, because we have been successful in stopping them on a federal level, and so if you stop them on a federal level, unfortunately, then they start trying to pick us off state by state. And what they've done in the state of North Carolina has a horrific record of doing this, is they provide one exemptions right after another with regard to size and weight. And when something comes up that the industry wants, they find a sponsor for this legislation, they sneak it through, nobody knows anything about it, they totally exclude the public, there's no public hearings, and they just push these things through. It's not even rarely, if ever, reported in any news media, and then it's done before anybody like myself who has an interest in it finds out about it. When I first found out about this legislation, it was moving so fast, no one knew anything about it. I'm one person, and of course the Truck Safety Coalition is a nonprofit organization, so you're like, how do you quickly get the word out? And of course the media is the obvious choice, and the media is interested in letting their viewers know about what's happening. And so I thought the quickest thing I could do is hold a press conference. Well, I had nowhere to hold a press conference. I certainly didn't think I could get statewide media to come to my home and hold it at my home. So I went to the state capitol, which most all media have personnel there at the state capitol. And I found a public library that gave me a room, and we held the press conference right there in the public library, and we had massive attendance from the media. So you went from an issue that was going in through the back door that was pretty much supposed to pass with absolutely no opposition, that all of a sudden was on the front page of every major newspaper in the state the next day, and you had all these same newspapers writing editorials in opposition to what they were trying to do. And so it was a wonderful way to quickly garner support and let people know what was happening, and that in turn then did hold the members of the North Carolina legislature accountable for what they were about to do, or whatever they did decide to do. They were held accountable. Anybody could do the same thing. You can go on the internet and do a search and find out what the media outlets are for any given area. They all have fax numbers and emails. You email them, you fax them, then you get on the telephone and you call them. You tell them what your personal story is. You tell them what's about to happen from a legislative point, and they're interested. They're interested and they want to know. Those same people use the highways the same as I do, and they're interested in that. North Carolinians were overwhelmingly opposed to this legislation in opinion polls that were done. You don't ever want to think that they died in vain. You want their death to have meant something. You cherish some way to honor them and to honor their memory, and there's no better way to do it than to do whatever you can to prevent from what happened to your loved one to happening to someone else. And there's no better way to do it than that. I think a lot of times when people come to SAR's strength, they're very angry. And anger in and of itself can be very harmful. But if you take anger and you direct it in a positive, productive way, it can be very valuable. And I think that's what it's done for me. It's made me productive and kept me involved. And I feel like that Daddy was young. He died too soon. It was preventable. I was robbed of having my father most of my adult life. I have a daughter who's named after him that never knew him. But this is a way of making it right, and I think the fact that I've done this for 25 years speaks volumes for the person that he was.